Okay, so I am a guest lecturer at Stanford, and I will probably be teaching a full class winter of this year. But this is a class I taught. Oh, we can start the timer now, by the way. This is a class that I taught. I'm just going to kind of run down through the lecture itself. So I'm going to go through 3 real-world use cases on AI agents, right? So you guys have heard of AI agents. Everyone raise your hand if you've heard of AI agents. Okay, has anyone deployed an AI agent in production? A few of you have started putting agents in production. Okay, are any of you guys who have put AI agents in production at companies larger than 1,000 people? No. Okay, great. So hopefully you'll get to learn something from this too. Oh my God, what is happening here? Wow, I don't know what's going on here. This is really. Okay, well anyway, the gist of this talk is that AI agents are being adopted in all sorts of businesses, all sorts of sizes, and the evaluation for why you adopt an AI agent changes by business type, by the business side, all sorts of these things. So obviously this says this is an interactive class. You guys are already interacting, so that's great. We're going to cover 3 examples. The first one's going to be a really big one. And oh my God, what is this? Okay. So the first case study we're going to look at here is going to be involving an organization inside of a large company. This organization, or this team, whatever it is, org, does hundreds of millions in ARR. They sell a SaaS product. And they're in a more or less slow-moving industry. They work in they're part of a company that is a tech company, but they sell to a rather slow-moving industry. And they are looking to adopt agents. Oh, what's going on here? So we're going to look at the objective for this company. Why are they adopting agents? So you have revenue growth targets, right? So as an organization within a company, you are always kind of on the chopping block, and you need to show revenue growth. So in this case, you have to either show vertically or horizontally. Now, remember that the use case here we're looking at is adopting AI agents. Do you think this is going to be vertical or horizontal growth? Raise your hand for vertical growth. Who understands what I mean when I say like vertical, like within the industry, right? So up and down the stack of the industry, okay? Now, raise your hand if you think it's going to be horizontal growth. Okay, most of you guys didn't raise your hand, so we're going to do this again. Raise your hand if you think it's vertical growth. Okay, now horizontal. Okay, both? A few of you, yes, okay. And then profitability targets. Of course, when you are working in a larger organization, you're going to have profitability targets, right? Your company is a public company, so you have to show that you're growing revenue, you have profit margins, all these kinds of things. This is how you get headcount, this is how you get more people, this is how you get more money on your team. And so basically, it's how do you get better margins. I'm not going to ask you to answer how you get better margins because that's going to be too much back and forth. And then there's going to be something that's very interesting in this one, which is intra-organizational growth. And the main thing about this is that you're going to have a lot of corporate politics, right? How many of you guys work at companies? How many of you guys work at companies with more than 1,000 people? A few of you? So you guys kind of understand, like, there's a lot of corporate politics that are involved in these kinds of companies. So here's what happens, right? So of course you do both. This guy over here who raised both hands, you have to expand horizontally, as in across offering multiple services, as well as vertically, as in offering more services along the same stack. And then your profitability targets, this is really what's going to drive your AI agent adoption, right? You're going to cut costs through using technology. You're going to adopt agents, and you're going to raise your prices because you're going to say, hey, we have more features, we can do more things. This is the horizontal growth. This is how you raise prices. And then you're going to do larger deals. You're going to spend more time trying to do bigger deals with bigger customers. And then in terms of intra-organizational growth, what you're going to do is you're going to go and you're going to absorb your sister teams, right? So when you are working on an application layer product, you have many infrastructure layer products that feed into your team. You use their products, and now what you're going to do is you want to absorb those teams so you have more control over their roadmap. So what happens in our solution? How do we get these objectives? How do we grow? How do we grow profit margins? How do we absorb teams? So first thing here is we're going to implement AI agents. So I'm going to ask this question. When do you think the first time trying to implement an AI agent was? Who thinks it was 2020? 2021? 2022, 2023, 2024, this year. Okay, so a lot of you didn't know, nobody raised their hand for this year, which you're smart because you know that in a large organization it takes 3 years before you get anything done anyway. But I'll tell you the answer later. Then there's intra-organizational team absorption. How do you grow when your team isn't directly responsible for technology, right? So this is what I was talking about earlier. Basically, you have teams that sell into your team. You need to take that technology and you need to be in control of the roadmap so you know how do you drive improvement upon your product. And then, of course, there's upselling and customer success. This is an important part of any business, right? What do you do when you don't have a concentrated sales team? So in this particular organization, I'm going to tell you the sales team basically sells across a wide variety of products, and it's not specifically responsible for the sales of this organization's products. If any of you guys have worked in the big tech companies, you know exactly which tech company I'm talking about now. Okay. So 2021, they actually started trying to do this in 2021. So I know a lot of people think agents are kind of like this new thing, but actually this idea of having AI kind of tell your software what to do and come up with the steps to do it has been around for a long time. And people started trying to do this quite early. You know, I don't know if you guys know this, but like GPT 2 was like out before 2020. So, or maybe it was 2020, something like that. But anyway, they started trying to do this stuff in 2021. And this is a multi-year process, right? You try it once, you try it twice. You gotta keep trying to deploy this stuff. And then basically, how do you absorb your sister technology teams, right? How do you absorb the teams that your technology relies on? This is exactly how startup M&A works, right? Like this is how like startups get bought by other startups. Basically, you have these sister technology teams. They're not as profitable. They don't make as much revenue. They need higher operational costs. So you say, hey, we're selling this application. We have more customers. We have more profit. We can absorb these teams. And then, of course, in upselling customer success, you need to find a way to get your SVP or your whatever CXO to give you a concentrated sales team and give your sales team larger deals, because sales teams are all driven by, what is that called? Commission, thank you. All right, so the outcome for this, what actually happened in this case study. So these multiple teams, multiple sister teams were absorbed through technology partnerships and a lot of corporate politics. Yeah, I kind of watched this happen over 2.5 years. It was really interesting to see. And then revenue targets have been achieved through basically both upselling, how do you sell more, and then how do you sell more features, and how do you sell more products. And then your AI agents can basically drive your profitability through cost cutting, right? So this is the main thing that people are using AI agents for right now, is basically how do we make things cost less by leveraging AI. All right, case study 2 is we're going to take a step down in company size. This is a private company. This is not a public company. They do hundreds of millions in ARR, and they do also sell a SaaS product. But this is in a much faster moving industry. It's in technology infrastructure. So how many people here work in technology infrastructure? You guys work with like databases or GPUs or anything like that? Okay, great. So you guys kind of understand this industry moves very fast. And they have quite a sticky product. And their expansion is basically through adoption of open source with the hosted options. So how many people here work with open source software? So I originally started working with open source software, so I kind of got a peek into what they were doing. I really don't know what's going on with these slides. All right. I think I'm running a little bit behind on time, so I'll try to go through these quickly. But basically, the questions you have to answer with this stuff is how do you scale a largely human-led operation, right? So when you are doing technology adoption, as I'm sure many of you are, this is a DevTools meetup, you're doing it's largely human-led. You have to have people kind of like show tutorials, walk people through how to use your technology, all this kind of stuff. And then how do you cover a wider range of products? As your company grows, you're always going to be basically buying new other companies, right? Once you get a certain size of a startup, you start buying other companies. And then how do you grow faster than your competitors? What are the advantages that you can use to grow faster than your main competitor, right? At a certain point, there's 2 companies or 3 companies in a space that are really doing all of that business. So the answer to this is basically you leverage technology like agents, right? So this is a talk about AI agent adoption. And how do you cover a wider range of products, right? So with people, you need SMEs, you need people who have a lot of experience within a certain industry or within a certain technology. So agents can learn from context. So basically you can do something like RAG and you can use that as a tool within your agent. And then you want to leverage both external and internal agents. You want to use agents that other people are building, like startups. How many people here are working at a startup? Yeah, so you guys, right, you're going to sell to these companies in a way that's like, hey, we're going to help you beat your competitors, we're going to help you raise money, we're going to help you get more money, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, internally, you want to build your own agents. When you have over 1,000 people in your company, you have a lot of talent, you want to go and build your own agents, you want to leverage your talent accordingly. But one of the hard parts about leveraging external agents, which is a big growth driver for these companies, is where do you even find agents? Where do you go buy reliable agents, right? And so if you work at a big tech company, you're at an event like this, hopefully you get to see some reliable agents in our demos today. So maybe you can use events like this to buy them. And then how do you find additional growth channels and operations, right? So beyond talking to people directly, it's like how do you find ways to grow your technology? Of course, you're on Hacker News, you're on Reddit, you're on GitHub, you're on blah, blah, blah. You're doing all these different things as a way to grow your tech, right? And then finally, how do you determine success for what an agentic adoption looks like, right? You're going to adopt agents into your company. You're going to adopt agents into your workflow. How are you measuring the success of that agentic adoption? Like I said, it turns out buying agents that work is actually really hard. Right now, we're in like the very, very early days. A lot of agents don't do they just don't do what they say they do. And if you work at a startup and you're building AI agents, you're probably one of these people whose agents don't do what they say they do. I totally am, so, you know. And then basically, like, how do you find additional growth channels? Social media is really, really popular right now. So social media tends to be the growth channel that a lot of these companies are looking at. And that happens to be the growth channel that so this is a company that I sell to. So I happen to work with this company through helping them grow on their social media stuff. And I specifically through Reddit, and this is what they do. This is what they're doing. And in terms of determining success, there's a lot of different ways you can determine success of your product. But for us, what we worked out was basically how do you get more people to come and like view your website, to view tutorials, to view your open source project, all these kind of things, at a lower cost than it would take to hire someone to do this. So that's how we measure success. And in our outcome, we basically were able to, they leveraged one external agent, that was my company. And it is both less expensive for them and it is less time consuming than onboarding a new hire. So they found that to be quite good. We were able to add a new social media channel. So we were able to add a Reddit as a social media channel for them. And they are able to continue building internal tools. It's largely a hands-off process. Once we kind of did the initial onboarding process, for them it's largely hands-off. And they get a lot of, you know, new eyes on their products, new adoption without having to do too much. All right, case study 3. This is a 2-person company. Basically, they're selling services as software. So you guys have all heard of software as a service, SaaS, right? This is SaaS, but the other one, service as a software. And basically, the idea behind the product here was how do you replace the boring part of a former job that you used to do? So for us, the first thing to do was identify a target market. Does the target market coincide one-to-one with people hiring for a certain role? So in my case, I used to work as a DevRel person, and one of the things that I looked at was, does the target market for this agent that I'm building coincide exactly with people who are looking to hire DevRel folks? And for us, I'll tell you what we found later. The next thing we asked was, are there opportunities beyond task-driven assignments, right? So in a lot of cases, when you work in a company and you're an IC, your work is very much task-based. There's a bunch of things that people want you to do, and you do those things, and that takes up pretty much all your time. And then we want to identify and lock down a buying process, because like it's hard to tell like who buys software at different companies unless you talk to a bunch of different companies and go in there and actually find out what happens. So we found that this was almost exactly one-to-one. There's actually, this is a little bit outdated, this is from last month. So there's been a few changes. We found that sometimes companies aren't hiring for a DevRel role, but they are looking to expand their DevRel resources. So if they already have DevRel hires, it's almost exactly one-to-one. And then basically what we found is like for the buying process and the buying motion, it almost always goes through the head of a department, the head of marketing, the head of DevRel. Sometimes we talk to the salespeople. This is like the department that buys these kinds of things for growth. And it's very simple. Business values always drive buying decisions, right? So you go to a company, you say, hey, I have this product, you should buy this product. Almost every time it's like, okay, well, what is the KPI that I can hit using your product? So for us, how do we do this stuff? How do you find your target companies, right? Like, where do you go to find companies you can sell your agents into? And once again, how many people are building agents at a startup? Raise your hand. A lot of you guys. So this is probably very interesting for you, right? This is probably a problem you think about all the time. How do you find companies you can sell these agents to? And then the next thing is to understand how is business value created at these companies, right? How do the companies that you're looking to sell to get business value? Because that's how you can frame what you're selling to them to get them to buy. And then you have to also define success when you're working with especially your pilot customers. You have to determine success for what is successful agentic adoption for this company, and how do you personally evaluate what a successful venture is for you. If you're going to go and put your time and energy into doing something, how do you evaluate why that is successful for you? So for us, we have companies that turn certain types of events. So now you know why I do all these events. And we also look for companies that are hiring for roles, specific roles on LinkedIn. For us, since what we're doing is largely new business development, we find that business value is created, in terms of sales, business value is created by first driving awareness for something, and then taking that awareness and driving that into adoption, especially for the open source component. And then from the open source component, that adoption will drive people into customers. And the deal sizes will vary between each company. Some companies are like, B to prosumer, business to prosumer. Some companies are business to business. Largely, if you have companies that do enterprise deals, these deals take a lot more time, but they also make a lot more money. And so these deals, people can spend a lot more money on customer acquisition, whereas with smaller deals, these companies have to spend less money on customer acquisition. So we're actually limited to the companies that we can sell to based on how much they can spend on customer acquisition and what their lifetime value of a customer is. And for us, how do we determine success? Agents are a buzzword. I think all of you who are working in startups know this. They're very cool. I do a lot of work with agents, but I think right now it is mostly a buzzword. And for evaluating success for our venture, it's mostly revenue, right? We don't really care about raising money. We don't care about whether or not we are famous on social media for what we're doing. I am an egomaniac, so I do care about being famous on social media. But for this specific company, it's about revenue growth, right? So that's how we evaluate our success. And this is what we've done in the past few months. We created an agent. We onboarded our first set of customers for pilots, and we have seen really, really, really high revenue growth, percentage-wise, not actual dollar-wise, which is unfortunate. But percentage-wise, we've seen really good revenue growth. OK, so I think that's my last slide for this. I have 6 minutes of time. Do we have any questions? I can take like 2 or 3 questions. Do we have an extra mic for this guy?
So let's pretend it's 12 to 24 months out, and you have some crystal ball in front of you. What do you see if you were here in June of 2026 or 2027, and how would the next 12 to 24 months change?
In terms of?
Your entire slide deck.
The slide deck?
I mean, everything that you presented. I mean,
sure.
These things, if you had presented this thing in January, it wouldn't have looked like it did today.
No, it wouldn't, exactly. OK. Well, I think the first case study wouldn't be that different. They are well on their way to adopting agents. The second one, we'll see more internal agents come out. I'm talking to this company pretty regularly. They are producing agents internally. For us, externally, what we'll see probably is we'll have, I hope to see a similar percentage in revenue growth. We'll expand our product line much like the same way that we saw in case study 1. You have to expand both the features that you offer in your current product as well as your product line, like up and down the stack. So for example, our stack is sales and marketing. So we'll have to expand both into the more marketing and sales kind of features that people want to see. So for example, right now we can track click-throughs, we can track where they came from, we can track the posts they came from, we can track all these sorts of things. But the next thing we need to do is we need to like track pixel dots. So we need to be like, okay, this person, they clicked on this link, and then they clicked on this link, and they came back to your site 4 times. After they came back to your site 4 times, they signed up for your product, they tried out your product. After they tried out your product for 2 months, then they adopted it, and they paid X thousand in revenue, and this is how we justify our ROI. So that's like one other thing that we'll see. And hopefully we'll onboard a lot more customers. So that's what I hope to see in the next 12 to 24 months.
All right, we have one over here.
What business KPI are you finding most persuasive with your clients?
What is what?
What business KPI are you finding most persuasive with your clients?
Yes, it's ROI. So for example, let's say you are a big company, your lifetime value of a customer is $2 million. Your current cost of a customer acquisition is, I don't know, like $500. If we can come and we can bring you 2 customers at a cost of $250 each, then you're getting an ROI of $4 million on a $500 spend.
First, this class is free, or I did pay.
This is a free class.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you mean like to actually take this class at Stanford?
Yeah?
Oh, you need to pay.
Okay.
But you're
How
getting
much?
it for free here because I already gave this class, so next time it'll be a different lecture.
Thank you for share. Your class talk about AI agent. So my question about can you imagine next year's 2025 what happen AI agent in the future? So
I'm expecting a lot more reliable agents this year. I think there's more security features coming out of it. I think this is something that, when you're first playing around with these things, you don't see a lot of this stuff, but now we're seeing a lot more security that's coming around AI agents. This is one of the big things, right? Like, would you trust an agent with your credit card? Not right now, but maybe you'll trust a credit agent with your credit card next year. And then hopefully we'll see more ease of use. So I think there's real value in making these kinds of these agents real easy to use, and I think that's something that's also kind of missing right now. Hopefully we'll see some demos today that will show very easy to use agents, and I will be wrong.
Yeah, I got a question on when the agents are what I'll call human level capable for a particular hire that they're hiring for a position. How do you see that decision process going down between hiring the AI agent versus hiring the human?
Yeah, so I think this is a very tough question with a lot of nuances in here, right? So I think I don't think that people are going to you're gonna fully hire an agent to do the job of a human. I think what's going to happen is you're going to hire agents to automate different pieces of what a human's job would be. I think actually there's some things that in corporate culture that and big companies that you basically can't hire agents to do, and a lot of that stuff is communication based. So there's a lot of communication that happens face to face with people, and that's. I mean, this is kind of a sad reality, I guess, but that's how a lot of corporate politics go, and that's actually how a lot of deals get done. And that's how a lot of things happen for people in corporate culture, right? Promotions and all that kind of stuff goes through that. AI agents aren't really going to be able to go through that stuff, and also they're not as flexible as people are, right? So people, you can kind of flex between different things, different objectives, much easier. And until we have more, I would say until we have the ability to have more complex agents, which is really going to rely on compute power, which we're literally compute is a physical restraint right now, right? And then the other thing is it's going to rely on what the actual capability of understanding context these agents have, right? So we see a lot of these LLMs that have thousands or even millions of context windows, and even still they have problem understanding context that humans can understand pretty easily. And I think on the other side of physical limitation, I think it's like, I might be like off with the numbers, but the scale should be the magnitude of billions of watts, maybe it's thousands of watts, the magnitude of a large amount of watts to run like thoughts on agents, whereas a human brain runs on like, I don't know, like 20 watts or something like that. So there's going to be big physical limitations there. And so until we can solve these issues, I don't really see agents taking over the workforce.
Thank you.
That's it, I'm out of time. Perfect timing.